Thank you, guys. Wow, I have an expert audience here. I wasn't necessarily expecting that. Um, I love the Nicholas presentation ideas, and we're going to be talking about property governance, a number of tools that we love at Radical Exchange to empower us communities to, I guess, live better. So today, yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about tools and real life examples, I would say, for movement building and social progress. So yeah, Malik Lakubai with Radical Exchange. I actually live here in Buenos Aires, so welcome to all the visitors. For once, I'm not the one visiting somewhere. Buenos Aires is often, at the end of the world, so it's nice to have people here. So welcome, and thank you to Crecimiento and everybody for inviting me. So I think we have about 30 minutes or so. I don't know if I'll be using, all this time, so maybe you'll have a break afterwards. I'll touch base a little bit on Radical Exchange, who we are, what we do, a little bit about myself, and then we'll dive into sort of like all tool boxes and what we can do with it in different aspects. So that's a little bit the I would say, name of the game here. As I said, building a society that advances plurality, community, equality, but using technology. That's a little bit what's behind our movement. So what is Radical Exchange? I'll let you guys read the first sentence. I barely understand it myself. So when I have to explain what is Radical Exchange, it's mostly, on one side, it's a think tank that brings really everyone from philosopher, artist, activist, anyone really out there with ideas and sort of like put them in a space to just create really and think about those actionable tools. You can think of us as well as sitting at the intersection of democracy, technology, and culture. So that's just in sort of like the big picture, Radical Exchange. Maybe if we dive a little bit into what we do, three big buckets. I like to think about that, and definitely Nicholas, I think, has touched base on a few others, and I think we have a few talks afterwards about governance and the common goods, and so I think we'll be sort of like cross-pollinating all of this. So the first bucket is about deliberative technology or democracy and plural voting, how to empower citizens, community, using open source, decentralized tools as well in public life. The second one is about digital identity. We talked about that in the previous talk. And what I like to say about leveling the playing field, I would say, for us, users of technology platforms, users of government services online, how do we, again, give us a voice and help us organize in some way. And the last bucket that we love to engage in is about partial common ownership and plural money or plural funding. I see you guys have experimented with the quadratic funding as well. So that's that. And I love the gentleman's question before about property rights and how do we think about ownership and property in this new world. And so, as I said, we're as much a think tank as sort of like a space, a movement builders, I would say. And here you can see a little bit how we think about our work. I would say it starts with ideas. It starts with thinking about things, dialogue. We move on to prototypes. A few of those you probably know. A couple of them I'll come back on. Solban tokens. Edges is actually a community currency that we experimented with and rolled out at a pop-up city in California, Edge Esmeralda, if you guys were there. We're always looking to partner with people. There is nothing exists at Radical Exchange without people outside of our world. So Web3 community, obviously, art and institutions, research labs, governments, etc. And then we try to, from those ideas, those partners, those technology, we try to build movements that could be long-lasting, that could be over a weekend, depends. And you have a few examples there. Internet for Trust was about regulation online with UNESCO. What and How We Own was about a conference we held in Oakland. Plurality.net, I'll talk about that, is with Audrey Tang, one of our board members from Taiwan. And then again, Beyond Cultures of Ownership, I'll come back on that as well. A little bit about myself, I guess. When I spoke with Coco about the talk and I mentioned a little bit about my story, she said, you absolutely have to talk about you, and who doesn't love to talk about themselves on stage? So here we are. Often people ask me why I came to Argentina, what are you doing in this mess? I love it for different reasons. One of them is about being an immigrant. So I'll show my T-shirt as well. I always bring this T-shirt online. I don't know if you can see, but we're all immigrants, and Argentina, I think, is also a land of immigrants, a land of ideas, and I like that. And so, just for the little story, for the past 100 years, I guess my family has been immigrants, right? The past 4 generations were born in different continents. My grandparents were born in India. My parents were born in Madagascar, in Africa. I was born and raised in France. And then my kids were born in the US. I actually spent most of my adult life in New York City. And so why Argentina? I guess, we're at the beginning of a new story, and I can see here how people are really willing to experiment, really willing to embrace new ideas, new organizations, and that's one of the reasons, I guess, I ended up here. There's also a very fertile ground about crypto, Web3, so all of this brought me here. But enough about me. Let's talk about this guy right here. He's also a board member of Radical Exchange and a strong supporter for many, many years. I forgot to say, but we were founded in 2018 by a guy named Glenn Weil, and Vitalik has been a great supporter of us. And so he said something interesting that stuck with me. Liberal democracies are running on the 200-year-old operating system. That's a long time when you think about, last time you upgraded your, iPhone or Windows or whatever. And so, yeah, it's time to upgrade. That's the way we think about things, not necessarily breaking everything, but trying to rewire, re-engineer what we have, make it better for everyone. And so what brought us here? I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way about the world we live in right now, but liberal democracies, capitalism has failed us a little bit. I'm not a big, revolutionary guy, but I want to say that for sure we can do better, right? And how do we do that? We do that by rethinking a little bit the tools that we have. And we love thinking about how do we empower communities, how do we give a voice to people. That's our work. I want to touch base real quick on plurality and thank the community here in Argentina that has welcomed us. So Audrey is the first digital minister of Taiwan, where she's experimented with a lot of the tools I'm going to be talking about. Deliberative democracy, fact-checking, decentralized digital identity. And we were here a few weeks ago, or she was here a few weeks ago, and we met a pretty amazing ecosystem of think tanks and people in the space that welcomed us. I encourage you to check out Plurality. It's an open source collaborative project, so if you have thoughts, you can actually write about that book, or in that book. And that's our idea. Let's build together using those tools. So I'm going to go in details about a few of them, and you guys probably know some of them. So as I said, the idea is about giving a voice. But before giving a voice, you got to probably listen, and listen to the underrepresented communities, the lower voices out there. And that's one of the ideas that we have at Radical Exchange. How do we create a space or a tool that can give a voice. And we've called it RxC Voice. It is a simple tool. I mean, I'll explain to you a little bit how it works, but it's basically combining Polis and quadratic voting. So if you guys don't know what Polis is, it is an open source software that is used for decision making. Basically, usually when we think about democracy, we think about who's winning, who's losing, who's got the higher ground, the majority, et cetera, et cetera. We think about democracy more as consensus building, listening to each other, building bridges, and what do we find in the middle? Polis is a fantastic tool to do just that. So it's online, you go on there, you can post a question, you can post an opinion, you can vote on it, and the tool is actually going to be able to bridge those gaps and show you in a very visual way the consensus, or at least the ideas that are opposed, but you can always have them in a dialogue, right? It's not about polarization. And so what we did, we used Polis and we applied it to quadratic voting. So think about once Polis has shown you a number of ideas and opinions out there, people can then vote on them. And so quadratic voting, very quickly, it's sort of like ranked choice voting with a twist. And again, it's to avoid the tyranny of the majority, and it's also to isolate and pinpoint the intensity of the preference. So let's think about a person that has to choose between different ideas for a community. Instead of having one person, one vote, this person, she's actually going to have credits. And then the more she concentrates her votes using her credits on issues, the more she's going to have to use credits, right? And so hence, and so we use a sort of like a square of the number of votes for the number of credits you can use. Hence, you know, the example here. We go for 2 votes, we're going to need 4 credits, 3 votes, you're going to need 9 credits. And so it allows you as well to choose and have a preference and also rank the intensity of your preferences. So that's a little bit the theory, but what we're excited about is really what we've been doing with that and our partners all around the world. So it's been used in Colorado, in Taiwan, and in Brazil as well. I picked Brazil because it's not too far from here, and also because 2 of the communities that used RxC Voices, I've used it to make decisions about things that are super important in Argentina. I would rank it number 1, which is football. I'll come back to that later, but true story, this team, this beach soccer club, used RxC Voices, community exchange, as we call it, to collectively, the players, make decisions about who their coach is going to be, how they're going to play, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing that I think is super important in Argentina is the use of land. I was recently in the north, in Salta, Catamarca, and I talked a lot about with the communities out there, the indigenous communities, and what has happened there and to their land. And you know, for example, in Brazil, residents of some of those territories have used our tools to express their opinions, their ideas, and how they want their land to be used. And they went to the government, and that sort of like kickstarted a dialogue as well. So there are many, many examples out there, but I wanted to share these ones because I felt that, you know, with Argentina, it could resonate. So then Coco asked me about crypto, blockchain use cases. So we're, you know, we like decentralized technologies. We like blockchain. We use open source decentralized technologies a lot. Some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about, you can do on-chain or off-chain. For us, we're pretty agnostic to this. We're crypto believers, but like somebody said before, you can use those with crypto or not. The idea is really using it in a sort of like decentralized, trustworthy, and open way. But one of the things we're going to be talking about here at Aleph is going to be partial common ownership of art. We actually have a talk on Saturday about that. We're going to be diving into that topic on the culture track. So I invite you guys to attend that once I talk about it. So first, maybe let's talk about partial common ownership. So, when you think about capitalism and how to reform, capitalism, it's not often that you think about property, or if you think about it, it's a very sort of like bipolar way. So property, you give everything to the state, and the state has to, organize it, or you sort of like cut it in different trenches, and you give it an equal way to everybody, right? Without really thinking about governance, without really thinking about how to organize the community once everyone is an owner of something. And so at Radical Exchange, we spend a lot of time thinking about private property and ownership, and how do we sort of like, come out of this paradigm, right? And one of the ways to do that, and that's, if you guys know a little bit of history at Radical Exchange, is trying to think about mechanism design, tools that are going to help us dissociate what's in property, and also getting to a point where you avoid accumulation, you avoid inequality, and you actually also optimize the allocation of resources, right? Which at the end of the day, that's what capitalism is about. And we're definitely not in that world right now. Think about land. We talked about land before. Think about real estate. Think about art. These could be three cases which are very illiquid type of property, and that inevitably led to accumulation, inequality, and inefficiencies. So partial common ownership is a way to incentivize people to think about the fair price of what they own. And so we don't talk about ownership, we talk about stewardship. And this is where you can use actually blockchain and smart contract to create an open and fair system where a property, a piece of land or a piece of real estate is going to be on periodic auction. And so anybody can come and buy this object or this piece of land from you. You're the one who are actually setting up the price. But you're going to set also a tax on this price, on this value, I'm sorry. You're going to set a tax on this, that you're going to pay. So think about it. If you don't want to pay too much of a tax, you're going to lower the price, right? If you lower the price, somebody is going to come and actually buy that piece of property from you. If, on the contrary, you want to keep that piece of property, or that piece of land, or that piece of art, you're going to obviously increase the value or the fair price of that object or that piece of land. So nobody can come and buy it from you, or at least not everybody, but you're going to pay a fairly high tax on it, right? So it's a way to think about the fair value of something that you're going to be able to use for you. And then if you apply it to art, what is interesting as well is that you're going to be able to reward the community that is helping you to create. So if you think about partial common ownership and art and you bring it together, what it's going to do is it's going to help you dissociate what is transferable and what is permanent. What is permanent is not going to be on the market. It's actually going to be part of your community, whoever you want to reward for helping you to create. And then the steward is going to end up with a piece of the art that is actually transferable, and every year or every month you can actually transfer that piece of art for one price. And so it's one way to think about the process of creation of art, and also making it more liquid, including royalties, for example, including reward for the community that has helped you. And it's one of the ways we use partial common ownership. There are many other ways as well. People have used it for land, for example. As I said, you can use it for IP as well. And all of this, you can do it using, you can use it as smart contract, right? And we actually developed Ethereum-based platform that we're going to demo on Saturday, where you can actually see how you can mint a token attached to a digital art piece, and you can actually create art using PCO. So that's one use case. Then some of you, I noticed, raised their hands when we talked about plural funding. So plural funding doesn't necessarily need to be on-chain, but it's used a lot by the Web3 community. And what it is basically a matching fund using quadratic funding, right? So it's a more democratic, scalable form of matching funding for public goods. Basically, the more people are ready to finance or to give to a project, the more money it's going to receive, and it's going to be, the funds are actually going to be higher and matched to a greater degree. And so it's very interesting, because think about same thing when you think about philanthropy, when you think about political contribution, when you think about who's always the bigger voice is the bigger wallet, right? In most cases. And with QF, what you do is basically you actually help the smaller voices to have a bigger impact. And that's probably one of the things that I'm the proudest of is when you think about radical exchange. I mean, obviously Gitcoin, people have talked about. There is also in Croatia, there is an initiative going on right now using municipal quadratic funding, where people can donate to their community, to their municipality, and according to that matching system, that plural funding, people will see, and automatically you will have, I don't know, a swimming pool, will have other type of municipal buildings being funded by the larger voice, not necessarily the louder voice. And that's what I like a lot about this. So these were, a couple of use cases, quadratic voting in Polis, quadratic funding, and plural funding, and partial common ownership applied to art. That's really why I came here. I wanted to leave you a little bit with, what's next. So, a little bit of a call of action. I guess Aleph and Crecimiento is about community of builders. And as you've seen, we like building and breaking things sometimes, I guess, as well. So the next steps, you're gonna see it's gonna be, so Saturday, the partial common ownership art talk at Aleph. We also have an AI and Labor Summit coming up in September. We're going to be in Thailand for Edge City. I haven't talked about it. One of the other stuff we're pretty excited about is community currency. We've experimented with that in Edge Esmeralda, and we're going to do it again here. So I know here you guys have Morpheus, I think it's called. Sort of similar with a twist, I would say, but very happy to talk about that offline as well. Or maybe I'll see you in Thailand. Every month we run those community calls. Everybody is invited. You get to talk about what you're doing in Web3 and mechanism design or anything else related to radical exchange and your community. I recently created a chapter here in Buenos Aires, just to get people involved, and so come and see me if you wanna get together. Usually we do that once a month somewhere here in the city. And then if you wanna scan the little Discord here, we also have a Discord channel. Oops, sorry. Where do I go back if you wanna scan? I think there is a bunch of QR codes at the end as well, so I'll leave you with the last slide. That's something that we come up with, but that's the way to think about us when you want to engage. So you can fork it on GitHub. Sorry, you can see us on YouTube. You can read about our work as well. You can listen to our podcast, etc., etc. And you have another QR code here as well, if you want to. And then that's it. The last one is really about, we're here to partner and build. So if you guys have ideas, if you like, thinking outside the box and, mechanism design and technology, come and see us, guys. I'm sure we'll find a way to partner. That's it for me. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to take a few questions. I guess there's 5 minutes left.
Amazing.
If you have any. Thank you.
Of course. Give it up for Malik first.